Hello, this is Mike, NoStressMike.com. Want to share with you what it's like to live under martial law. The reason is many don't have an idea what martial law is and how it works. All you can relate to is what you see on TV, and what they show is the part that makes it more dramatic. I mean, it is TV and movies after all. And I'll tell you what it is. Many people in the world live under martial law. The United States is an exception, and it's one of the few exceptions. And the reason I say that is the misconception of what martial law really is. And okay, what it is, martial law, now I don't know the definition to the dictionary or anything, but this is the way you can tell you're under martial law is when police and military work together. They're not supposed to. They're two complete different things. And once they start working together, that's a good sign that you're under martial law. Another thing, if you look at the Constitution, much of it is it's much of the stuff that it says, it's telling you this, you can't have martial law. In other words, when they talk about the searching of your person, in other words, they can't look in your car, they can't just come into your house, they just can't start checking you out, looking in your bag and stuff like that. That's what they do under martial law. And so you think about that when you're in your car. They want to ask to search your car. Right now, most of the time, they ask, and you shouldn't be letting them do it. But many people do. And a lot of times, when they do the traffic stops and different things, they'll say, well, would you pull over there? You are doing it when they ask you that. You are volunteering to do this stuff. Okay, now, and then once you volunteer, you've given up your rights. And so they're working their way around the Constitution. And that's because they're preparing to do the martial law. And in martial law, they don't ask you. They tell you. This is what I go through all the time down here. They're looking at my vehicle. Now, they do even have the power to come into your house. And I'm not talking about coming into your house to search. I'm talking about coming into your house to live. When they bring in the military or a large bunch of police, a lot of times they don't have housing for them. And this is when they will use your house. That's another thing in the Constitution. It talks about they don't have that right to come into your house. And that's all this is based on stopping the militia, or stopping the martial law to go into effect. So in other words, every time you see all this stuff happening, they're chipping away on the Constitution, taking away your rights. And I know a lot of you think that there's going to be military and police just swarming all over the streets. Now, I've seen it like that, but I really don't call that martial law. I call it a war zone. And in war zones, that's what you have. You have an abundance of, like I say, police and military. And the reason is there's very few jobs. I talked about during war, the main jobs are government jobs. And those government jobs, a lot of them are in the police and military, either doing the logistics, getting them all taken care of and all this kind of stuff, or the ones you see on the streets. But that's why I say there's going to be a lot, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. Now, I've thought about it. Now, down here, I say we are in martial law. They have roadblocks they don't really do roadblocks like they do in the United States. Right here, they just pick cars out of they'll stand there next to the road and point you, and you pull over, and then they'll do their thing for you. And each person in the car, they ask for the papers and all this stuff, because you have to have papers. And that's another thing that you're going to be seeing, in which in the United States we don't. But you see there's more and more excuses to have some kind of ID. And so they even issue you an ID. They're so nice. The state will issue you an ID. Even though you don't drive, they will still issue you an ID. These are all steps on taking away your freedom. This is called tyranny. And the younger generation, they're used to it and they go along with it. That's because they don't have any idea what freedom is all about. And so they're happy just to go along with all this. Look on Facebook. Look at all the information they get. They just give this information out. And I remember, for me, the first time I was on the internet, they ask you this, and then you go to the next page and they ask you this, and I'm just looking for something, but they keep asking you all these. So then you get tired of, you're not going to give them any more information. Well, you've already given them all this other information. So people are used to giving out information. So that's why they say, well, who cares if they stop you and ask you all these questions? Well, all this falls into martial law. Okay, now, like I say, now, if you're thinking, and there's many, especially a lot of the preppers, they really think, that they're badasses and they're going to fight and all this kind of crap. Okay, what happens is the communities that are calm and settled down, all they have is police and military. They'll be driving around the streets. They make their presence. And they're just showing you. They don't need to stop people and ask them for their IDs and stuff like that. Because all the people in this particular community are sheeple. They're all just go along with what they have to do. So they don't need to really do much stuff. In a way of asking for ID, moving their troops into your community and stuff like that. They don't have to do that because, like I say, everybody is doing what they're supposed to do anyway. And so that you don't really see the martial law in effect. You just see the police and military. It's funny because here you see them and they're walking down the street, on the sidewalks. They'll be walking on the sidewalks, either 2 or 6 or 8 at a bunch, and they don't talk to people. They don't do anything other than make their presence. It's a form of intimidation, and that's what they're doing. Okay, now what happens is if a community doesn't want to do what they're supposed to be doing, then they bring in more forces into this community. So in other words, instead of them just making that presence, just seeing them drive around in their trucks or seeing them walk on the sidewalks, then they will be asking for IDs. They'll be asking where you work, what are you doing out, where are you going, and all this kind of stuff. And what that is, they are, right back to the intimidation, they are showing they have the power. Now, if you think that you are going to, and this is why you're going to lose your guns. This is why I already made the video talking about how you're going to lose your guns. But that's how you're going to lose your guns. Because a lot of times they'll, like I say, if you have guns with you, automatically you're arrested and all this kind of stuff. If you know somebody that has guns and you're hungry, you will tell them, oh, well, yeah, so-and-so, he's got guns over there, and then you'll get extra food. Because, see, they do control the food. They control the food, water, they control everything under martial law. So you just think about it, how much in your community is controlled? And you say, well, your food's not controlled. The grocery stores are. If the grocery stores cease to be opened, if the grocery stores don't have the food, and then it takes the government to make sure that the food is in the grocery store, you don't have food. This is what preparing is all about. You prepare for this kind of stuff. Now, like I talked about, in my small community, we grow our own food. We have, cattle, chickens, rabbits. We got gardens. We've got all this stuff. So for us, when it comes to controlling the food, it's much more obvious to us because we grow our own. So when people come in and try to regulate and tell us what we can do, we find that offensive. But when you're living in the city and you depend on the grocery stores for your food, and then, like I say, you just go along with whatever they tell you because you don't have no choice. Well, that's kind of like martial law. And like I say, I was in Cuba where they regulate how much food you can have. So, in other words, everybody living in the city where they get so many pounds of sugar, so many pounds of flour, so many pounds of meat, all this every month, providing they do good. They're good little communists. And so then they get this stuff. Look at it kind of like our welfare system. They'll get their little credit card so they can go to the grocery store and they can get the food that they want, or smokes, or whatever. I don't know what that stuff is. But anyway, it's through the government has given it to them. That is just like communism. Now, see, when the majority of the population needs government assistance, you're setting yourself up to be a socialist. And down here in Central America, just about every country down here is socialist. And if they're not socialist, they're communist. And even here where I'm at in Guatemala, it's pushing more for communism. And they want even more stuff. Like they got their Obamacare. So the government takes care of them. But the thing is, there's so many people growing their own food is tough because you can grow the food so you don't need as much government assistance. In other words, the government doesn't really control the food like it does in Central America, in the United States. The government controls the food through regulations. So not only regulate the food that's in the grocery store, but they regulate the grocery store themselves. So the United States has got a really good tight control over the food. So you're going to be pretty much screwed when it comes to food. And everybody needs the food, and you're going to have it. Either they're going to rat on you, other people will rat on you, or you're just not going to have access to the food. Now, I know when I talk like that, it sounds like, well, what are you supposed to do? Well, for one thing, if you're in the city, you've already given up your independence already, because city life is everything is dependent on other people. So cities are the easiest ones to be under control, because they're already used to being under control. And they're already under control now, so it's no big deal for them. So martial law won't be that big of a deal for the city. Your small communities, we're back to the three-man militia. I talk about the three-man militia in all sorts of different types of skills. And I know a lot of people think on militia, well, you're with guns and stuff like that. Well, that is going to be one thing also, because if you don't have the guns and the ability to back up your other skills, you won't be able to use your other skills. And we know that in the small rural communities. We realize that already. That's why we have guns and we have multiple skills, and we use these skills, unlike the city people, who are limited on what skills they have and their abilities to use those skills. Because everybody's got to be certified and have a license, I don't know, diploma or something before they can do it. If you don't have it, well, that means you're stupid. You don't know how to do it. You better stay away from it. You don't know anything about electric if you don't have a certificate saying you know about electric. So, and in the country, we work with electric even though we don't have all those papers. So, in other words, when you're a city, you've learned to be dependent. And when you're in the country and you have... Now, this is going to be the hard part that people aren't going to like in the United States. And the city people, already the city people and the country folk have problems. They have a lot of disagreements. It's easily to be seen when you look at the East Coast and the West Coast, and they make laws and regulations that we in the central part of the United States have got to go by. We don't like it. In Oklahoma, we dislike being told by New Yorkers and Californians what to do. So that's a good, easy one to look at it. The other way to look at it is we even have our problems in Oklahoma. We have Oklahoma City and we have Tulsa. Those people want to make laws and regulations and tell us what to do out in the country. I know they still have the same problem in Missouri. I go to Missouri. I do a lot of work in Missouri, and those people have the same exact problems. Kansas City, St. Louis, Springfield. Those people make the laws for all the country folk, and they don't appreciate it. So when it comes to trying to, so this part I'm talking about is going to be for the small communities. This is why I try to tell people, if you live in the city, start making connections in the small rural communities. If you make connections, you start storing guns, ammo, food, and all this stuff. You make arrangements with these people, either by getting a travel trailer and moving that out there, or on their weekends, go over there and help them do some ranching or farming, help them run the tractors, or do something to show you want to be part of that community. And then when the time comes, you'll be able to come to that small community and start a life in that small community. It won't be the big lights and all the fancy stuff you find in the city, but you will know what country life is all about. And country life is more of a simple life. The simple pleasures in life are more appreciated. Now, okay, trying to defend your small community. For one thing, when it comes to martial law, you will not be able to defend your community. This is the part nobody likes to hear, this part.